Hello everybody, this is Women's Grandmaster Sabina Foisor. I'd like to welcome you to my video. It's been a while since I have posted videos on YouTube or on my Facebook page. For those of you who are not familiar with the Facebook page, I recently opened up my page on Facebook, not only on YouTube, to kind of be able to give some people the opportunity of watching the videos on Facebook instead of YouTube. I understand that sometimes you might prefer to use specific links, so why not giving you the opportunity of checking these things wherever you feel more comfortable with. So, being back, today is Sunday, and here's the position for Season Up Sunday, which is a theme that I had prepared for my YouTube channel, probably 4 or 5 months ago. So this is a position from 1995, which was composed by Blundell, and some of you might be familiar with this position, others might not. For either one, I hope you're going to give it a try, pause the video, and try to figure out what's going on in this position. If White has any chance of winning this, and if he has or she has, how would be that continuation? How would you approach to this position to try to win it? Okay, so let's get started. Some of you might already be familiar with my theme and how I'm doing this. I'm not starting with the solution, so I'm starting with all the other ideas, and then we're getting to the main point. So let's see what's going on here. So White has a piece up for a pawn, of course, and normally it shouldn't be that complicated to win this position, right? However, Black's king is quite close, so if they manage to play some f3 and then bring their king, they should be able to capture that pawn in e4. Now, if somehow you manage to find a way to protect your pawn, but also protect the promotion, control the promotion square, f1, then maybe you have some chance to win this. So probably the most natural approach would be to try to bring the king to c1 and try to stop Black's king from attacking your pawns. But what's going on here is king g4. And in this position, Black goes f3. So freeing this f4 square for their king, and then of course going with the pawn towards promotion. And here White has a variety of choices, and king e3 is one of those, because we are saying, well, the king is going to control the pawn, but also restricting Black's king from coming to f4. The problem with this move is that Black goes f2, and you have to take it. There's no other way to stop that pawn from promoting. And now king f4. And now there's no way for White to protect the c4 pawn. Therefore, this position would finish in a draw. Going back to king d2 f3, in this position, another possibility for White to try to stop this pawn from promoting would be to go knight e3. Thinking, I'm going to control the f1 square, and now if Black goes king f4, White is going to go king d3, protecting the pawn. That promotion square is controlled, should be winning for White, right? Well, not exactly, because after f2, you can't go king e2 to stop the pawn. You would lose this pawn, so there's just one move that you have, knight f1. And here Black goes king f3, keeping you restricted, but also keeping you protecting, keeping the pawn attacked so that you cannot move the king. So the only opportunity for White is to actually move the knight. But now we're gonna go back king f4, and what to do for White? You don't want to go back knight f1, so let's say king e2, trying to stop the pawn with the king. And here you would realize that if somehow in this position it would be Black's move, so somehow White could just stay, if Black would have to move in this position and would go king g3, now White would go king e2 and would be winning in this position, because you can go back, you would lose this pawn and my pawn is protected. And you can't go king g2 because I'll go knight f1, giving you the move. Let's say you'll go king g1, knight e3, controlling the only square where you can go to keep your pawn protected. So now whenever, well, if you promote, I'll take it, and if you move the king, I will just capture in f2 and white is winning. So very, very important you realize this. But again, it's your turn, so you have to go king e2. And now how does black make a draw? Playing f1 queen, king takes, and here very good move, king e3. And this is the way that black manages to make a draw. In fact, they don't manage to actually capture that pawn, but because of the Zugzwang, white will not be able to give black the move. And here king d3, keeping the knight attacked, so your only chance is to move with the king around the knight. But I'll keep attacking your knight and the pawn, and so white has no opportunity to try to enter with the king a little bit and get to win that pawn. So after king d4, the position should be a draw. But at least we realized that if somehow we could get this position with black to move and black would be forced to play king g3, we would be winning. So it's a very important idea that hopefully you have all seen. Okay, what other possibilities are there in this position for white? Another possibility that you can think about would be to try to move the knight first to bring it to stop this pawn from pushing. So you might be thinking of knight e1 in this position to stop the pawn from pushing, but of course that won't stop black from bringing their king. King c2, f3. And here, if you're trying to stop the pawn with knight d3, we kind of had a similar position before. Black goes f2, you have to capture king f3, and something's gonna fall. And unfortunately, you don't have enough time to bring your king that way, win the pawn, because you risk of losing. So that does not work. After f3, don't even think of playing king d2. I mean, you can, but let's not forget that after f2, you need to be a little bit cautious. There are just some moves that you can make that would not lose the game. Knight g2 is one of them, but now I don't need to promote to a queen, although this would work as well. I can also promote into a knight, and then there's no way for white to win this position anymore. So knight e1 doesn't seem like a move that would help white to win. Is there anything else in this position? Yes, there's one more move, this knight a3, maybe thinking to make black lose a move somehow and bring the knight. And black goes f3, and here knight c4, to try to bring the knight to e3, stopping the king from coming, but also stopping the pawn in f1 from promoting. And here black has this very good move, king h4, with which he makes a draw. In case black does not find this move and plays king g4 instead, he actually is going to be losing. After king c2, king goes to g3. Now there is a very, very good move for white, giving black the tempo and putting him in Zugzwang, king c3. This is such an unpredictably beautiful study, because the idea of actually winning this position is not to make natural moves and approach the pawn. Somehow you make moves that are far away, yet it's going to help you win. And why is this king c3 so good? Well, now when you play king f4, I'm going to go king d3. I've protected my pawn. You push f2, and now I'm playing knight d2. And I've got the position that I mentioned to you earlier, right? Because now after king g3, I'm going to play king e2, and white is winning. So very, very important to see this line, how beautiful it is. So if black goes f2, now once again we go knight d2, and if king g2, finally we can go king c4, which is something we wanted to do earlier, but it didn't work. And here, whether black is gonna return to g3 is not gonna help him much, because now white has this knight f1 and black is in Zugzwang. He's gonna lose this pawn. So a very, very interesting idea, but like I said, after knight c4, black has this good move, so every single move counts in this position. And when you go king c2, now king g4, so that I can take the opposition, the long distance opposition, as I want to, right? And now if the knight comes to d2, we're gonna go king f4, the king comes to d3, and f2, and we've already seen this position before. Similarly, if instead of knight d2, white would bring their king to d2, here f2 would be played, and here king f4. We don't really care about that pawn that much. We want to give it away in order to take the other one. And after knight d2, black is simply promoting to a queen. And with whichever piece you take, it's going to be a draw. We have already seen this idea, king e3. And black keeps their king attacking both the pawn and the knight. And white has no way of progressing this position. So after having seen all of these ideas, we should be able to try to find the correct move in the starting position. And once again, this study is very, very unpredictable. The correct move in this position is, for all of you who have seen it, knight to a1. You're actually going with the knight on the other side of the board, but this is going to be so helpful, and we're going to see in a second why that is. Here after knight a1, black pushes f3, a very natural move to go with a pawn towards promotion. Now knight b3, and if black goes f2, king g4, now we go king c2. And the king will manage to get into that position. Like if you play king f4, we've got king d3. We've already seen this. It's black to move. If you go king g3, we are going to play king c3. Very important. Long distance opposition. If you're going to play, I don't even know what you can try here. Maybe you can try some king g5. Once again, we go king g3, king c3. And the pawn is going to be stopped, and the king is close enough to the pawn to be able to protect it, but in the same time give black the move, and white is going to be winning. So if black doesn't play f2 in this position, he actually rushes to bring their king to try to attack that pawn as soon as possible. White goes king c2, and king g3 to help push the pawn. Again, this very important move, king c3, taking the opposition and waiting to see where you're going so that I know how to approach your pawn or that pawn. Okay, so now if black stays king g4, we go king c4, threatening already. This knight is very well placed to be able to stop this f-pawn whenever it will be needed. And if we go king f4 in this position, king d3. If we go king g3 in this position, king d5, king f4, knight d2, I'm stopping the pawn, as we saw earlier. Okay, let's look a little bit more at this king f4 here. After king f4, I said king d3. It's very important to play king d3. Notice that king d5 is a big, big blunder, because after king e3, black is going to be the one winning. I've controlled the d2 square, and now my pawn is going to promote. So king f4, king d3 in this position, and after f2, knight d2. The king comes to g3, and we've already seen this. For those of you who haven't really checked the other lines, here comes the final move, knight e3. I really hope you enjoyed this study and are excited for my comeback. Be sure to stay tuned for more videos of analyzed games, studies, endgames, and more tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.